Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Graham Noble, Jeff Charles, and Scott Cosenza. And this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. It was astonishingly unprecedented. The raid on Mar-a-Lago. President Trump wasn't in Florida when it happened, and it's been widely reported that he was in New York. As news and vague details trickle out of the media, questions abound that haven't been answered as of yet. I know folks in my circles have questioned what was even in the search warrant, and others want to know what legal waters does the 45th president find himself in now. Scott Cosenza, Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, is on board to help us understand the ramifications of this latest political hot potato. Scott?
Well, the answer to your question is he's in treacherous waters, Sarah. He faces a potential criminal indictment, a federal criminal indictment. Well, we know, if we believe the published sources from Newsweek and the Wall Street Journal this week, who they alone have basically published accounts from insiders in the DOJ regarding the raid. And they say that it was pursuant to a grand jury's decision that the Presidential Records Act was broken. And also that there is an insider within the Trump camp that reported both that Trump has lied to National Records basically archivists about what he has, and also pointed out to authorities the specific locations of documents that he's not allowed to basically continue to hold. He also faces criminal charges in New York City by the Manhattan DA, potentially, and also civil charges by Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, who he was deposed by this week, and pled the fifth, which doesn't have any implication with respect to criminal charges that she may issue, but because it's a civil matter, she would be allowed in a subsequent civil case to basically present the information before a jury that he pled the fifth, and then they could then hold that against him. So it's quite a bit that he may have to face here.
Graham, what you got going on?
Well, obviously, the entire thing is rather intriguing. I did notice that a recent media report in a website called Just the News is actually now reporting that, in fact, Trump had already, prior to the raid, been cooperating with the FBI, had allowed them to search his private storage unit. And apparently that all went off kind of very cordially. Trump in person was apparently there at the time. And of course, that therefore does lead one to speculate that this raid perhaps was more about publicity than anything else, making a public statement. I'm not necessarily saying that the FBI has taken it upon themselves through some kind of real or imagined political bias to do that. But nevertheless, it does seem curious that since Mr. Trump apparently was already cooperating with the Department of Justice, that they would then choose to do this kind of raid, which is obviously going to be the most high profile FBI enforcement action, in living memory, I guess. So that's all kind of intriguing. I don't know. Scott has presented obviously the sound legal argument there that suggests that potentially Mr. Trump is in a lot of trouble. I still think I think it may or may not be a bit of a stretch to charge him criminally over anything to do with holding classified documents, because I can't imagine any president in living memory who has left the White House without taking classified documents with them. Obviously, that's me just speculating, but I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to go to Vegas and put money on that.
I can tell you that one of the things that Trump posted on his social media account after the raid was pieces from an article by Jim Bovard. I think he was writing for the New York Post. And Bovard, if you don't know him, boy, everybody needs to look him up, because he's a brilliant exposer of government over abuse, basically.
Yes. Yep.
Freedom in Chains, I think, is one of his great books. Anyway, he details how from Nixon through to Trump, every president basically has violated in some way or fashion this law. And for Trump, it's not even a denial of, like a longstanding denial of holding these documents from the public. You could argue that the Clinton administration, that we still don't have access to some of their documents. And Joe Biden did a two-step, by the way, where his documents that he provided to a Delaware library were supposed to have been released within 2 years of his retirement from the Senate. And then when that changed, when he ran for president, to 2 years after he retires, basically from public life. So you're right. It's not speculation. They've all done it. But it seems like the enforcement action is just against Mr. Trump.
Well, Jeff, I've been noticing on the media, people are trying to call it not a raid anymore. Was it a raid? Are we talking a raid here, like the classic sense of it, or are we just trying to listen to the spin and make it sound prettier than it is?
Well, I mean, if this had occurred at Barack Obama's house, it would definitely be a raid. but I mean, it is worth, arguing that term. I mean, because they didn't go in and kick the doors down with their guns drawn and things like that. But it was still the serving of a warrant. And I agree with Scott and with Graham. I mean, this could potentially be an issue, but it could also be a whole lot of nothing on a sesame seed bun. One thing that I've seen other people saying on social media and elsewhere is that this could possibly not even be about those documents. They could have served that warrant as a pretext to possibly come across or stumble upon something else that could be used against them, like perhaps something related to January 6th or something else that can be used against them. Right now, we don't really know, because we don't know what they found, and we probably won't know for a while. I expect for the Justice Department to be pretty tight-lipped about this. They may say, they're going to say, we don't comment on ongoing investigations and all those types of things. But politically, so far, I'm not saying that this is damaging Trump that much. Now, again, this could change later on. But right now, if anything, the base has been consolidated around him because they view this as the use of the government to attack a political rival.
Andrew, why are you so quiet? That's starting to scare me a little.
Well, because I'm surrounded by geniuses. I have nothing really too much to add. But Jeff made a point about the politics of it. If you look at some of the reaction on social media from Jack Posobiec to Tim Young, right away they're all saying this is going to embolden Trump, and this is going to be the start of his 2024 run, and this is going to help him, and it's going to bring all the Republicans to vote for him, and so that could possibly be the case, especially if some of the allegations are correct that the right is making. But I do have a question though when it comes. Perhaps Scott can answer this. There was a lot of I shared a clip with Sarah recently. It was a double side. On one side was talking about the 2016 election of Hillary Clinton and all her emails. The other side of the clip was showing the FBI on Mar-a-Lago. Now, what's the key difference though between, let's say, what happened with Clinton and Clinton's emails and what happened with Trump? Why would there be an ounce of hypocrisy on the right when it comes to the emails of what Trump has? I mean, shouldn't the right also be advocating for FBI intervention there and combing through documents?
Orange man bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because the left would say, the right is saying that this is banana republic stuff, and that you're going after your political opposition. But then wouldn't let's say there was something in Hillary Clinton's emails, and you raided Hillary Clinton's home, wouldn't that also be banana republic stuff? So what's the key dichotomy aside from orange man bad?
Well, I think you're comparing two things that have some similar aspects, but calling them the same, and I don't think they are the same. So this is about the Hillary Clinton case was about an ongoing mishandling of that information, and she was not the president of the United States. And let's just take one issue, if we might, which is classification. I think the president of the United States is the only person that has the unilateral power to classify or declassify certain documents.
I believe that's true.
So it is a sort of like a king-like, or if it were Hillary Clinton in some dystopian alternate universe, queen-like power, where they just by like magic, this is declassified. It could be the nuclear codes. It doesn't matter if the president publishes it, that it's declassified. And you could argue that by retaining possession of it after his presidency, that he declassified it or authorized that for himself. I think this is a little bit of a sort of an angels dancing on the head of a pin question where, did the president go 56 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone? Maybe. Why are we arguing about this like it's an actual, a crime where, for me, I'd like to get and talk about basically common law crimes versus these sort of new crimes. Common law crimes being, you don't need to have a sophisticated analysis to know that murder, rape, arson, kidnapping, those are all crimes, right? But holding on to this piece of paper one day past when you say I should, or when the law says, the idea that we would raid a past president's home and maybe subject him to incarceration for that, we triage these things all the time. And that's why I would suggest to you that's why no one has ever gone against the list of presidents from Nixon on down that have done this, because it's seen as a nothing burger, but only when I presume it can be used to not only damage Donald Trump generally, but specifically prevent him from seeking office. One of the penalties upon conviction of this crime, violating the Presidential Records Act, is the inability to run for future office. And many who are looking at this raid skeptically think that is the real kind of reason behind it.
I have one quick question, not to be the Juan Williams of the C5 today, but I see a lot of the left's reaction saying, if you're pleading the fifth, then that automatically means you're guilty. So can Scott please verify that if pleading the fifth means you're guilty?
I'm sorry, we got to wrap it up, but and I'm sure we'll be back to talk about this all again with the same lovely panel I have today.
The answer is no.
Well, as we reported earlier, this action is unprecedented. As things unfold, we will keep you in the loop. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all, as well as Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to surf on over to libertynation.com or join us on the Member Zone, just $17.76 for the year. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank Diorio, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Sarah Cowgill, filling in for Lisa K. Donner, and this has been a production of libertynation.com, where truth is making a comeback.